There used to be a term, it's like, no, 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 I'm not political. I don't talk politics. You know what I mean? And like, we can't afford that anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like being quiet is making yourself the enemy, man. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, that's checking your privilege as an artist, is being like being silent and not choosing a side and just being quiet. It's like, oh, I just make my music. It's not enough.
It's not enough.
What up? It's Dramos, and this is the recap. Of course, as I do each and every week, breaking down some of the biggest headlines from this last week. Now, salute, as always, to our girl, B. Marie, who does our IG Live daily show, Rise and Vibe, where she breaks down the biggest headlines from each day. And then, of course, each and every Saturday, I'm here to kind of break down some of those bigger stories from this last week. Now, of course, as I do each and every week, I have an amazing guest helping me break some of these stories down. Very excited about this one. This week, I have the Oxymorrons, who are a New York City-based band. So I'll be hopping on in just a little bit. But before that, man, let's dive into the BS, because it just keeps on going in 2021. So it's been a hell of a start to 2021. That's to say the least. Now, the human cheese doodle that is Donald Trump has once again made history, and surprise, surprise, it's not for a good reason. Now, he's officially become the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice. Now, of course, this comes as a result of, his role in inciting the Capitol riots that happened last week, or the insurrection, if you will. Now, maybe I'm biased here, but for me, this impeachment is like a few months overdue. Now, if I was in charge, I would have had impeached him for a number of things over this last few months. Now, for starters, how about the painfully awkward moment that was him trying to figure out how to pose with the Bible?
Hey, Bible.
Or what about his cringeworthy dance moves?
It's fun to stay at the
Or possibly, one of his worst offenses over the last few months was making one of the greatest rappers of all time, in Lil Wayne, get dressed in an outfit where he looked like he was wearing his older brother's hand-me-downs. Just to have the chance to be pardoned. Now, of course, I'm just being petty here, but let's be real. What happened with the Capitol this last week, those riots, the insurrection, that was some serious stuff. And what's crazy is that it's painfully obvious that for some Republicans, or I should say the majority of Republicans, they still haven't seen enough. When the House voted this week on whether or not to impeach Donald Trump, 197 Republicans voted no. They voted no. Only 10 actually voted yes to move forward with impeaching him. And mind you, these same Republicans were a part of the group that was under attack when these Donald Trump incited riots were happening at the Capitol. Since it seems like this whole experience has maybe given some of these Republicans amnesia as to just how bad these riots were, let me refresh your memory via a couple people who were at the Capitol that day as well. How about this Capitol police officer who recounts his experience of basically life and death?
Some guys started getting a hold of my gun, and they were screaming out, kill him with his own gun.
Now, quick question, because maybe I'm missing something here, but I thought Blue Lives Mattered. It seems like the Republicans just can't seem to make up their mind, and I'm not gonna lie, it's getting kind of frustrating. It honestly starts to feel like when I ask my girl what she wants to eat.
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
And now, in case Blue Lives no longer matter, what about the lives of your fellow congressmen and women, like AOC, for example, who went on Instagram to describe just how traumatic this whole experience was?
As for myself, I had a pretty traumatizing event happen to me. And I do not know if I can even disclose the full details of that event due to security concerns. But I can tell you that I had a very close encounter where I thought I was going to die.
Now, listen, I'm somebody who likes to live a positive life, right? I like to see things through the vantage point of the glass being half full. But let's be real here. If these people, specifically the Republicans, after seeing all they've seen from this president, hearing all the rhetoric that they've heard, and then seeing what it's resulted in the week before this one, the Capitol riots, an insurrection, treason at the hands of domestic terrorists, white supremacists who have been emboldened by Donald Trump. If they've seen all of this and still choose to not make an example of this man for future generations, it's hard for me to have faith in our government as a whole. It's obvious that political allegiance matters more than the actual country they've been elected to serve. And that is a sad and just disgusting fact. Now, I'm not trying to be too negative here. So let's lighten it up just a little bit. We'll bring in some new energy. We'll have my guest hop on to hopefully mix it up for a little bit. Now, my guest this week is an incredible New York-based band who's played everything from the Vans Warped Tour to the Afropunk Festival. They've had their music featured on huge platforms like ESPN's First Take. The latest single, Green Vision, is out everywhere right now. Oxymorrons, what's good, fellas?
Yeah. What's good? That New York year.
Yeah, I'm loving the New York vibes just coming at me right now. It's a nice change of pace. Man, so listen, I want to get into everything y'all got going on because I know you got a bunch of things in the works. But if you don't mind, first, let's kind of break down some stories from this last week. I want to hear your guys' perspective on them.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
All right, cool. So, I mean, all right, big story. Obviously, I'm going to touch on it early in the show, but everybody's talking about the kind of fallout from these riots that we saw happen at the Capitol, Trump and all these different things. Him getting impeached for the second time. I mean, I know you guys have chosen to use your platform to speak out on things as far as social justice goes, and you have a song called Justice. So, I mean, let's just kind of get your first reactions, I mean, to all you've been seeing. I mean, I guess this last couple of weeks, but man, this year in general, we saw with 2020 as well.
Man, it's a reality TV show. That's the first thing I was like, this is a joke. You know what I'm saying? What's next on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z? Like, come on.
I mean, it's obviously like super crazy and unprecedented, but I think there's a lot of big takeaways from this. Being first and foremost that the enemy can look not like us. For the first time, you know, I think a lot of like the riots and the sort of narrative has been that the destruction comes from Black and brown and, you know, POC. And America for the first time really looked itself hard in the mirror. And I think it's important that the lawmakers themselves too, you know, these are the people that draft up and sort of the guidelines for how we're supposed to live our lives, but they're so untouchable. It doesn't affect them. They keep taking away and giving rights here and there, and it has nothing to do with them. And those people kind of like, you know, got the probably saw God that day. You know what I mean? Got their boots shaken up a little bit, and that sense of immortality and being untouchable was completely stripped, and they remembered that they're just human. So I really hope that the unfortunate circumstances that have you know, seen themselves through sort of maybe change a lot of those lawmakers' hearts. Maybe they start voting a little more progressive for things and see the humanity in all of us as opposed to just the statistics of it all, you know?
Yeah.
True. And then it also has a space where the general public got to see something unfold in real time, where and that something is like the disparities of how things are treated. If you just think about when Black Lives Matter did their peaceful protests in the same location, the amount of force, or not even force, the presence, the mere police presence alone was completely different. And it just showed you where white supremacy lays, and then it also showed you where white privilege lays. I never saw white privilege in real time like that, other than in real life when I'm witnessing it going against myself.
It was a live footage of white privilege. You know what I mean? Which is very rare to see. It's just like it was in your face. It was on CNN. It was in the news, and you couldn't deny it. You know what I mean? Right. It's like for the first time ever, you guys like it's. You know, statistically, whatever, like whatever you feel it doesn't matter. Like, we're watching this happen in real time, and you can't say anything about it.
My favorite part of the fucker is seeing the one black cop.
Yeah.
By himself fighting on
Eugene.
Right.
Eugene Goodman.
Yeah, like, bro, like, are you kidding me?
Bro, it's God has to have a sense of humor, bro, because it's like real talk. How is that even possible? It just happens to be. You know what I'm saying? Like the visuals of all of this, man. It's just wild to see, and I love that you guys are using your platform to speak about this. And to be honest, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like for the first time you're seeing people that look like you and I having these conversations and genuinely interested in it, and it's important. And I think. Do you guys kind of feel like artists or people with platforms, whatever it may be, they have a duty at this point? You know, it's too important to not be speaking on it, or how do you kind of feel where you draw that line?
I think we've always had a duty. I think with like, you know, with great responsibility, with great ability comes great responsibility, all that other good stuff. But I feel like artists, we are the voice. Normally, we not only make the soundtracks to Revolution, we gear and stare them, we ignite them, and at the end of the day, it's like if you're an artist and you're not using your voice for that platform, I think that's, for us, that's a little bit strange. That's a little bit off-putting because it's a way of giving back because they give you so much. So people got to realize that a lot of artists don't realize that the gifts and the things that are bestowed upon us are not for us. It's to share with the world. So in a sense, not speaking out in that kind of way kind of limits that. Yeah.
And for me, I look at it like not just only just opening your mouth and saying something. You don't have to say, pardon my French, you don't have to say anything. It's the action behind it. It's what you're doing behind it. There's so many artists that I know that you know, even big artists that have done incredible stuff, but they don't speak on it, just make the action. Like when Prince died, bro, did you see all the stuff Prince did? Like,
he was real.
He was real. Like, he didn't have to go, hey, I'm doing this in a way like to show people. It's all about the action. We don't like talking about it. It sound cool for like Instagram and all the other stuff, but actually going out and helping or like and talking to people, that's what I really like.
And a weird thing also is there used to be a term. It's like, no, I'm not political. I don't talk politics. You know what I mean? And like, we can't afford that anymore. You know what I mean? It's like being quiet is making yourself the enemy, man. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, that's checking your privilege as an artist. Is being like being silent and not choosing a side and just being quiet. It's like, I just make my music. It's not enough. It's not enough.
No, facts. I mean, I think that not using our voice is why this has gone so far. You know what I'm saying? And it's only now because we've all come together and become so outspoken that we have this momentum for possible change finally, you know?
And it's weird. It's weird because I even wanted to touch on the hip hop side of things. Yeah. Like, because you mentioned on how like now you see artists and now it's a very now thing. And, it's wild because we used to crucify artists who spoke politically. Like, you know, like if you go back and listen to those Lupe Fiasco albums, he wasn't as preachy as everybody was trying to make him seem, you know, and it's just like, and those are the things to the point where the man was speaking the truth so much, he lost his deal and like his career got shifted in a way because he was just being honest. And now we're seeing in real time the things he was speaking about. And it's just, in hindsight, it's always 2020 and it's kind of wild to see that. So as artists, I think we need to really pay attention to that as an industry, especially for Black and brown people to be like, hey, like, let's not only focus on the hype, the braggadocious. It's not just that. There's a lot more to us. We're very complex and there's a lot more we have to overcome and a lot more we have to fix and build. Let's use that because we do have the resources. They're just not pointed in the right direction.
No, 100%. I mean, let's kind of change gears a little bit. We'll lighten the mood a little bit. I mean, starting with people say New York is dead, right? So that's this whole. But let's be real right now. Our NBA teams are kind of popping right now when it comes to that. So I mean, there's some good stuff in the works for us. I mean, how do y'all feel? Hey, are you guys Knicks or Nets over here? How we feeling right now when it comes to the NBA teams?
I'm gonna hold y'all neither.
I'm neither. I grew up a Spurs fan.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's real different, but I've always felt bad for my brothers and sisters who rep the Knicks because that's real love. Like if you're a Knicks fan,
I grew up a Knicks and a Mets fan. And so what ended up happening is I just stopped watching sports altogether. I got tired of losing all the time. So I was like, I'm not going to root for another team. I'm just never going to watch it again. And it's been nice to especially this year, the Knicks and all the young players, man. It's exciting. It's just like, that's the kind of energy the city needs. And the Nets, it's the Nets, once they move to Brooklyn, like it's cool. I fuck with it. I know I have a lot of friends who are Nets fans now, and it's part of the culture here. You know what I mean? Like we were just talking.
The Harden move is kind of trash. I mean, the Nets seem to always give up too damn much to try to get some people in here.
That's a New York thing. I feel like they inherited that from the Knicks.
Yeah,
but we were just talking about this yesterday where, I mean, the city itself, New York City, like produces a lot of ball players because we ain't got fields and to go play football and run track. Like ball players, really come from here and we rep that hard. So it's definitely a big part of the culture here.
How do you feel? I mean, how do you feel overall, though, this idea that New York is dead? When you hear that, how does that make you feel?
For people that ain't from here.
Exactly.
Because I ain't from here. Like, go back home then. Get out. We don't need that.
I don't understand that when they say New York is dead and then they jack all the swag. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. You can't go it's dead and you over here researching how we move, how we walk, how we speak. Go online, everybody's saying dead ass. Where did that come from? Yeah. I was in Boston. This white kid said, "Here." I said, "Chill, B."
That ain't for you, bro. That ain't for you.
Everyone who I met who said that New York is dead happened just to move back to their parents' nice place in Pittsburgh for a little while. Back up. I'm just saying.
Or Seattle. All the Seattle, Portland guys. Like, it's no doubt we love those cities. We touring them, but like that's the thing. There's a lot of transplants in New York, and one thing about New York, it gets hard. And what New Yorkers do, we thug it out. That's what we do. It is what it is.
Right. I mean, let's be real though. Like New York, when I think of New York, I don't think of a studio apartment for $3,000 a month and you got like a hot plate as a stove. You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't New York. That needed to die out. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel.
Right. I was gonna say it's probably going back to the real New York. We're just weeding out all that extra bullshit that's been here for too long.
Absolutely. I mean, this is when the art thrives. Yeah. I mean, but this is when the art thrives in New York as well. When you think of whatever the 80s, 90s, all these different things, it was when New York City was somewhere people didn't want to live necessarily. That's where the art was thriving, when you really think about it. Or Williamsburg before it became, what it is,
Artists historically obviously don't make a lot of money. So it's like you can't facilitate art in a space that where it costs so much to live. Like, are you crazy? Like, as an artist, you got to be out. Like if we weren't from here, we probably have been out too.
The best art is made through struggle, and if no one's struggling, I can't see what kind of art's being made. I'm just saying.
That's why sometimes I believe like the best art comes from here because of the struggle.
There's always a struggle aspect in New York. And think about it. Even before this, if you go hard in New York, as the price go up, you got to work harder. So as inflation is rising, there's always that grind. That's why it's a constant grind in New York. It's crazy.
And then on top of that, you got to compete now. Mm-hmm. There's 80 million people that's nice too. So you got to like stick out between all the fire creators out there.
You got to be a big fish in a big ocean. That's
right. Let's dive into you guys. I want to dive into your music because for me, what made me really want to sit down and talk to you guys was because I saw so much of myself in you guys. Like I grew up playing in metal and hardcore bands, and I remember, right? So I remember, bro, them being like, "Yo, why do you listen to that white music? Why are you playing that white music?" You know what I'm saying? And like at the time, I didn't really have any examples of like me seeing myself in anybody. The first time I saw myself in a band was Bad Brains. And when I discovered Bad Brains, that like blew my mind. Like, yo, cool. Like I know that this is cool lane because they were busting everybody's ass in that scene. You know what I'm saying? So like, but for you guys, man, I love, what's the tagline you guys always say? Like, too hip hop for rock, but too rock for hip hop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to me a little bit about this experience you guys have gone through as a band comprised of people of color.
I mean, just like you said, I loved like Slipknot and Children of Bodom at age 12, 13, but also listen to hip hop. I was wearing skinny jeans and skating, and everyone was throwing homophobic slurs at you. Before Lupe did it, before Pharrell did it, we were skateboarding, wearing skinny jeans, and it was just nah. Like I grew up 2 blocks away from the project. It was a no-go. Yeah. And the same thing when you know, as too often, even as a light-skinned dude, I'm the darkest person in a very white room. You know what I mean? And so knowing how to not knowing how to navigate either space, and therefore creating your own sort of culture around that, around being othered, is the general experience. Well, you yourself just said it, and I guess the whole point is to like like you said, like see yourself in everybody in these new bands and these POC movement, the POC movement within rock.
Yeah, it's always this idea of like, I just remember growing up, it's like your authenticity is always being kept, no matter what you're doing. You know what I mean? Just like, even again, being like a lighter skinned like Latino in the scene, like oh, like how much like do you really care about like Lamb of God and like all these things that like I should have like come to first before I divulged into other like heavier metal and stuff, you know, and no one just let you like what you like. You know what I mean? And I think that was always the thing, you know, and again, like you're gonna be like a product of your environment regardless. But again, like stepping outside that lane was just always a no-go all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like growing up, I remember like being around like hood kids and like being like, "You like Linkin Park?" And you're like, "What are you talking about?"
Right.
And then I'll be around like, you know, other white skater kids, and I dressed like Cameron, but I was skating. But you know, but Metallica song would come on, I would start singing, and they'll look at me like, "What are you like? What is this?" So you just felt like a mutant, like you didn't know where to stand, and
it's constantly trying to find somewhere to belong. It's kind of like we all saying, we've all had the experience where you kind of in this space and you feel like you don't belong, but the space is yours. When you talk about like we've heard the making white people music our entire existence as the band, like that's just what it is, and so it's not white people music. I think that plays in part with the other stuff. Like a lot of kids don't culturally know their history. Like rock is black music. Like we created it. There's no such thing. Even the statement black rock. No, it's rock. You know why? Because black people made it. You don't say white rock. You know what I'm saying? We're not black rockers. We're rockers. And then
that's cocaine.
And that's what it is. So just growing up and like being able to, I know bands like NERD really made it viable. Like, you could do that. Like you could do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So stuff like
especially
that.
pre-internet, because it's easy now to mix and match things because kids are exposed to so much. But before internet, you're just exposed to your neighborhood and the people you grew up with and what they show you. You know,
that's all you got.
So for us, on top of that, like we felt like it was our duty in the sense of these are the things that we like. We're gonna do it. And we're gonna do it just to inspire other kids to not be afraid to do it. Because I know plenty of dudes that was like hood dudes that loved it, but they wouldn't say it because they were too scared to say it.
Exactly.
So we were the ones that would always be like, nah, like we don't care.
You don't care. So it's what it is.
We want to give them the voice to be like, yo, it's okay to say you like this stuff.
Yeah, and representation is super important, man. Like especially in this space. Like even for me, like obviously NERD was like a huge impact, but like I remember just being like in 2004 when I found out that Killswitch Engage had a black frontman, like blew my brains out. You know what I mean? I'm just like, and then just to look at someone and be like, yo, I can play metal and be accepted in this, like that's a big deal. You know what I mean? And just not comparing yourselves to like, oh well, they could do it, but they look like this, or they could do it. It's like, oh man, like I see myself in that person.
It's super important. Those stigmas is what kind of made rock get stifled. A lot of people are like rock is coming back. The whole thing, it wasn't allowed to evolve. Every genre evolves. Like as time evolves, we evolve. Music sonically evolves, and rock's purist was ensuring it wasn't evolving. Well, until now, because we about to do what we want to do, as you can see.
Like even the battles that we dealt with as a band going through, they're like we would like show up at venues and they would give us like DJ equipment. We like
set right up. We pull up and this DJ equipment set up. We like, yo, you come on, man, we're a band. Like, when we pull in the building, they playing hip hop in the
once we walk in there, all of a sudden Wu-Tang comes on.
Y'all dusted off that last rap CD I had, slid it in the back, like, come on.
Yeah.
All types of like, we have festivals tell us we ain't American enough to play it. Yo.
They were like, they heard the music, like, oh, this is awesome, and they saw us. They was like, no.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like until we show up and we rage and we do what we do, people go, oh, wow. We convert a lot of people that way. It's like, oh, okay, damn. Because you wouldn't really give it a chance if you just saw us. You would assume like, oh, this dude's making that? Yeah, okay. Check it out.
It's interesting, man. I would love to see platforms like BT, when they do their award shows, embrace genres outside of just hip hop. I was talking to Coco and Breezy, who produce like electronic music.
Coco and Breezy,
right? So they do their thing in like the house music scene. It's like, why not have an electronic music category? And of course, why not have a rock category in these awards and really embrace the diversity that our, cultures have?
That's what we're hoping to change. You know how many times, like, everybody got they come up. and we like you envision where you're gonna be, what awards you're gonna get. I dream of us playing the BET Awards. I know we always talk about the Grammys and we always talk about these other things.
Yeah.
Like that would be huge for Black kids to see a Black rock band raging on the biggest platform for music that Black people have.
And honestly, man, people don't want to do the research. That's another big thing. Because like there are Black rock bands that exist that are fire. You know what I mean? Like, again, we think we're the most fire. But no, this is again like people.
Did you just use the word thank you?
No, but again, it's like people don't want to dig deep. Like there's so many amazing POC rock bands out there and people who are crossing genres, and again, they're just not given the platform.
And because the platforms are controlled by the industry, and the industry has their narrative. You know, we understand. We get it. I want to say we understand. Understanding sometimes means accepting, and we get it. But at the end of the day, because there's no reason for it to be as segregated as it is. To be honest, like like the term urban music, it's all these stupid ass terms that come out the gate that just separates Black music from white music, and it's just music. It's all frequency, my dude. Ain't no color to it.
All they will be supporting Black businesses.
Yes, they will.
Well, listen, before you guys get out of here, what do you guys got going on for people to kind of look forward to? What should they be checking out from you guys?
Check out the new single, Green Vision. The video's lit. It's New York. It's New York. We New York's rock band. Hasn't been another Black rock band in New York in probably like 30 years since like Fishbone and the dudes in that crazy era. And so check out the new single. We got an LP coming out soon. So we're not gonna drop no dates on that.
We're gonna throw you some Lucy's in the meantime.
Yeah, a whole lot of Lucy's. That's what we call singles too. They Lucy's.
Nice. I like it.
So when they steal it, you remember it came from
right here. Right here. I love it.
It came from New York right here. So we got a bunch of Lucy's coming. Videos, shout out to Jay and 3D Rex and those dudes. Like, the whole thing it's a whole movement. You're gonna see it's a whole Black rock movement, and a lot of us are united all over the globe too. Like from Canada to UK, everywhere. We're all pushing, and it's about our due is coming. That's time. It's time.
Yep.
I love it, guys. Well, listen, man, it's been great to connect on here. I love you guys' energy. Definitely when this whole nonsense of the pandemic is over, I got to come check out a show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We got you on the guest list.
Hey, maybe throw me a couple drink tickets too.
Don't bring your nice sneakers and bring an extra tea.
I'm a little too. I got these bad knees, bro. I can't be running around in the pit anymore.
Okay, put them on the balcony, sir.
Let me get the balcony. Big shout out to my guests this week, Oxymorrons. Their single is out right now, Green Vision. Make sure you go check it out. The video is on YouTube as well. Really dope video they shot in New York. So I would definitely highly suggest you checking that out. And before I get out of here, of course, I want to leave on some positivity. So we'll do that in the form of a positive quote. And this week's quote, man, it comes to us from Armando Vasquez. And the quote is, "The only limitation is self-imposed." I'll say it again. The only limitation is self-imposed. And I thought that was an appropriate one, especially talking to the guys in Oxymorrons, because they speak so openly and so freely about the challenges of being a band, playing their type of music, and being a band comprised of people of color. They're not supposed to play rock music. They're not supposed to play heavy, aggressive music. And that's the irony of this whole thing is we're told these things, but the only people who can really stop us from doing things that we want to do is ourselves. We can allow ourselves to fall into this whole trap of what we're supposed to be, what it means to be Latino, what it means to be Black, or any of these different things. These definitions are man-made. They are created by people, and we oftentimes allow them to govern our lives, far too much. The reality is we have to just start thinking about our own happiness and what makes sense for us. And if it does make sense, we do it. If we feel good about it, we do it. That's it. Only limitation is self-imposed. Do not set a limitation for yourself just because it's not the quote unquote norm. Okay. That's my positive note for this week. Thank y'all so much for tuning in once again. Appreciate the support. Of course, once again, check out our girl B. Marie doing Rise and Vibe via our IG Live every weekday, giving you the day's biggest headlines. And of course, each and every Saturday, I will be right back here. Until next time, take care. Bye.